you watch something and then you know you're getting close to the end of it and you're just like, I can't wait. Hey, it's Romania Black, and no, I'm sorry, I can't. I watched episode 9 a few days ago, and I was like, oh, I'll watch some other stuff. I'll wait. And then tonight I was like, I really want to see the next episode. So I don't have any comments, really. I don't. The only thing I will note is that in episode 7, K.A. pointed out that the voice actress for Queen also plays Toya Todoroki, the young version of Toya Todoroki in My Hero Academia, which I thought was pretty interesting. And also plays a character in One Piece and a few other things too. But yeah, I couldn't wait. I was like, come on now. I was like, you can't just, we ended that last episode and it was so freaking good. And then we ended it with Decim like seeming like he was, having a rough time having to make this decision and being proven by the black-haired girl that things aren't always what they seem with humanity, and it's maybe not as complex as you're making out to be, and the arbiter's job isn't being done well. And I feel like Decim is going through an existential crisis, and now the black-haired girl, they're going to be at odds with each other, right? It's like a rom-com. They're going to be at odds with each other. They're not going to want to talk to each other. Decim's probably going to go and like get advice from Ginti or something and be like, how do I get her to like me again? And Ginti's going to be like, I'm dealing with my own problems, and points out Mayu. Like, it just seems like things are going to get really chaotic and all like go to hell in a handbasket now that Decim's world's been thrown upside down by the black-haired girl. And I don't know how Nona fits into all this. I don't know how Casper and Oculus fit into all of this. There are so many things that the last episode was so good in terms of its theme and what it was like talking about and everything like that. And I'm like, we've only got 3 episodes left. And you expect me to wait. So I couldn't do it. So yeah, here we are. I do want to give a shout out to Patreon, especially the philanthropy tier. The philanthropy tier over on Patreon, they give me extra support each month because they're amazing individuals, and I'm really, really grateful, along with all of the patrons on Patreon. But the philanthropy tier, because they're so gracious, they get a special shout out in these videos. So I want to go ahead and give a special shout out to Edgar, to Dana, to Anime Annie, to Nameless Monster, to Tyrone, to Eric, to Sunspots, Translucent Men, to Be Happy, to Shimoyama, to Isabel, and Alex Cornejo. Thank you all so very much. I truly appreciate it, and I'm really grateful for all your support. Thank you for giving me extra to do the things that I love. So yeah, all of my love to you all, and patrons and YouTube subscribers as well. Y'all are amazing. I greatly appreciate it. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I just couldn't wait. And I was like, after last episode, the themes of it, everything coming to a head, I'm like, what are we going to do? What can we do? And I guess we're going to find out. So I hope y'all are ready, because I just needed to watch it. And then I'll probably wait a little bit, maybe, for the last 2 episodes. I can't believe we'll only have 2 episodes after this. Insanity, right? This series has been crazy, and I just don't know what to expect. So we are going to start episode 10 of Death Parade and see what the aftermath of all this is. And we're going to do that here in 3, 2, 1, and let's go. So this episode... I like how you all think that I'm going to wait to watch the last 2 episodes. I don't think I can after this. I was just... oh man. So there's a lot going on under the surface with this. Oculus is terrifying, y'all. And I just don't... Oh my God. So what's fascinating about this is that Oculus has told Nona the rules about being an arbiter, and that arbiters cannot stop judgment. They cannot die. They have to be immortal, basically. And they cannot have emotions, right? Because they're just dummies. I'm like, but it's almost symbolic that all the humans are dummies too when they come there. Like, everybody's a dummy when they come there. Like, the arbiters, the humans, they all start out as dummies. They all are. Like, it's just a big metaphor for that everyone's the same. They're all this chunk, this just like, you know, if you think about it, without a soul in it, without a soul to make it alive, a body is just like a mannequin, right? It's just like a mannequin without the soul. That's all it is. And essentially it's represented in the afterlife, where they're literally mannequins and the soul lets them have an entity and an identity, right? But the longer she stays there, he's got so much time to judge her before she starts turning back into a dummy. I'm like, what if he doesn't judge her? What if she just stays there and she stays a dummy? I don't know. Like, I don't know how that works. Like, what if she stays there and becomes a dummy? What if she stays there, becomes a dummy, and then becomes an arbiter? What if that happens? Because at the very beginning of this episode, we see Decim, right? We see him open his eyes. His eyes do not have the crosses in them until he stays awake for a little bit longer, right? And then they become like that, right? And that's when he like wakes up and sees Nona. So, and she's like on the tree, right? Like the tree of life. Well, we already had Chiyuki. We find out her name finally after 10 episodes. Chiyuki is her name. And we find out that she woke up without her memories on there, right? But she wasn't an arbiter yet. What if that's what happens? What if she stays, she doesn't end up getting judged, he refuses to judge her and chooses to keep her there, and then she like becomes a dummy and then becomes an arbiter? Can that happen? Would that'd be a way for her and him to stay there together? I don't know. I don't know. But Oculus is creepy. Oculus seems to have like control over all of them, because he just Stranger Things like face wraps around Clavis, and then Clavis is like, oh, what happened? And it's like, your memories just got tapped, man. Like, you just got like face hugged by an alien lotus blossom. What the fudge? Oh my gosh. Like, just, yeah, he asks where he is. And then he asks, who am I? Yeah, he doesn't have a name. She says, you don't have a name yet. You're an arbiter. And then he's like, an arbiter. And she says, someone who judges souls. So is the idea that these were they all once human, and then they like had all that stripped away and they became arbiters from the dummies, and then they got new names, and just that's how they were reincarnated in this? Is that what this is? Oh my gosh. So many questions. So many questions. So many questions. What it all means. What's going on. I don't know. I'm just like, I just don't know. Someone judges souls and sends them either to the void or to be reincarnated. And then, of course, Decim's like judging the souls. I'd wondered if him and the girl if him and Chiyuki had died around the same time, or if they had known each other like in a previous life. I don't think that's the case, right? But the question is, she died and came there. What happened to the other person that came with her? How does that work? Because they always come in pairs, right? So the other person, she remembered that she died, but they didn't supposedly. So what happened to them? We don't know. I'm assuming that's what we're going to find out maybe in the next episode. I don't know how that works. But yeah, him going, he's on the precipice, asking if he's an arbiter and what to do. Oh my God. And so then we have the two dolls, right? And we find out that the moral of the story is, we don't know the full story, but what we can gather so far is with Chavit is that the girl, Chavit, she can't hear. And so he tries to find a way to communicate that he likes her. And because he can't communicate in words, he finds a different way to say it. Which I'm wondering now, because the little boy has like the gray hair in the storybook, even though the other girl doesn't have black hair. I'm wondering if by the end of this, I don't see this having a happy ending, which is very sad. I see this having a horribly bittersweet ending, and I'm not sure how to take it. Because I'm like, wait, no, what? Why are you doing this show? So I don't know how to take it, but I just have a feeling this show is not going to end happily at all. I'm not looking forward to that. But I'm like, I like happy endings in my story, and I have a feeling this is going to have a very bittersweet ending, which checks out, but I'm still like, no, I don't want it. I don't want him to, like, lose her, because I've really come to like them as a couple, and I'm like, I want them to stay together and judge people. But I'm wondering if the whole moral and point is that he can't, because it's an arbiter and he supposedly doesn't have human emotions, but he does. They injected human emotions somehow into him, right? To do a test thing. He's literally a test dummy. Decim is a test dummy. Oh my god. Him and Ginti are test dummies. Oh my god. Yeah, that's it. Him and Ginti are test dummies. We're going to talk about this when we get to Ginti. But I feel like that because Decim is not going to be able to articulate into words how he feels about Chiyuki, that he's going to like non-verbally tell her, whether it's to kiss her or to smile at her, I don't know, to hug her, I don't know. You all expect me to wait. So yeah. But he gives the whole spiel to her. I like that Nona has like the purple, the bluish toenail polish. Arbiters cannot quit making judgments. And of course, the elevator's Lotus theme too, just like Oculus. That's why they exist. And they can't experience. So literally, Clavis, arbiters, like the arbiters and Clavis, they're all dummies, right? They're just dummies with an inherent soul somehow in them, right? And Oculus can just tap into that soul and address it. It's so creepy. Arbiters cannot experience death because that would make them near humans, and they cannot feel emotions because they are dummies. Which, if that's what she ends up becoming, a dummy, she won't have emotions anymore and she can become an arbiter. But is that really the best thing, though? Is that just me wanting to ship them together, or does she need to be reincarnated? I don't want her to go into the void, for sure. Don't want that. But I'm like, can she just be reincarnated? Can her and Decim meet again in the real world together, please? I like that Decim goes to her for advice, because he's just like, I don't know what to do. So you are the only person I really trust. What should I do in this situation? And Clavis, of course, is eavesdropping the whole time, and which makes sense, because where else is he going to go? He's the one that brought him down there. But he could have waited outside, but nope. He eavesdrops on the whole thing. And then she says, what you've been doing isn't judgment. And he basically asks, saying, I believe the way we currently judge is not right. And of course, Nona never wants to give anything away. She's like, what are you talking about? Why is what we're doing wrong? I don't understand. Like, she just doesn't want to admit it, right? And she's like, could it be the extreme conditions or not? I like that Decim gets to the point that Chiyuki was making in the last episode. He's like, is it maybe the fact that we're pushing people to the extremes, not revealing darkness, but creating it instead? Is maybe the trauma we're creating for them causing the harm and not exposing it? And Nona's, of course, like, He's like, I have respect for people who have lived fulfilled lives. I can no longer judge them. Like, his face, he just looks so sad. He looks so long, right? I think what's also fascinating is that Nona, her house and everything has seats for two, like for guests, but she rarely has guests. She's kind of almost in the same boat as Oculus, where except Nona's not asking for company. She has the birds. Oculus has nobody up at the top, so that's why he's kind of begging for companionship. She seems like she just has people visit all the time, so it's perfectly fine. I feel like I would be Nona without people visit, but yeah. So yeah, you could tell she's just sitting there being like, what do I do with this? Obviously things are being kept from Decim that Decim doesn't even know about. The fact that they've seemingly injected human emotions into him and Ginti is being kept from them. And she says, well, what do we do about the black-haired girl? What do we do about Chiyuki? And he's like, what are you talking about? I don't want to give her up, And that's when Chiyuki notices that her hand is starting to chip away. And she's like, oh no, her term is coming to an end. And Decim's like, if you can't do it, do you want me to do it? Do you want me to judge her if you can't do it? And he's like, no, that's not necessary. You have to judge her and decide if she's reincarnated or if she's going to be cast into the void. And yeah, he's like, but creating... And I like that Decim doesn't want to create the extreme condition. He doesn't want to bring out any darkness in her because he doesn't... I feel like Decim doesn't believe that there is that darkness, or he doesn't want to think about it, right? So he doesn't want to do it. And she's like, well, what do you even know about her to judge her from? Her memories aren't there, so you can't go off of it. And he's like, yeah, I know. She's like, should I have Keen send her memories along? And he's like, no, that's fine. I'll judge her without it. Do you plan to judge her without seeing the darkness of her soul? And I like that Decim, he says that's not her true nature. It's like, no, she's a good person. Why would you create that in her? I love that Decim doesn't want to do that, right? He doesn't want to create that darkness in her. He wants to like leave her like she is because he believes she's a good person. And Nona's like, well, if you knew her true nature, then you might not be able to understand it. And I like that Decim, like, he gets kind of mad. He's like, no, I don't. Decim was clearly affected by Chiyuki's words, and he doesn't want to put her in a situation to make her feel like, to bring up those horrible memories. Like, he doesn't want to do that to her. And I love Decim for it. I love the growth his character goes through in this short amount of time, like, to the point where he wants to do things for her, and he's getting all fired up. And I'm like, oh, Decim, come on, man. Oh, and she says, I'm going to send you a special guest, and you judge her accordingly. And that's when it goes back to her. And obviously, Chiyuki's not happy about what's going on. I like that side eye she gives him as he like walks up to her. And he's like, a guest is coming. And she's like, I'm not in the mood to judge with you. And that's when he notices that she sees the spot on her arm. He says, have you become aware that you were human? And she's like, okay. That look she gives him, though. Oh, my God, that look. Where she looks back at him, just like staring at him. He says, human souls are not able to stay here. If they exceed a period of judgment, they turn into dummies. Yep. And he's like, I have to judge you. I don't want him to judge her, though. I want her to stay with him. Do you plan to carry on with that? I'm an arbiter. He's like, what else can I do? That's the sad thing. He's like, I don't know what else to do. He's like, I have to keep judging. That's my whole purpose of being here. He's like, Decim gets what she's saying and what she's been telling him, but he's like, I don't know what else to do. This is like my lot in life. This is kind of the only reason I exist. What else can I do? You know? And so I don't want him to judge her. It makes me so sad. So yeah, storyteller. And so then the old lady comes. What I really like about this, I had to think back. I was like thinking through the episodes at the time. I was like, okay, episodes 8 and 9 were those two. Episode 7 was alcohol poison. Episode 6 was the heart attack, was the dance thing with Mayu. I had to think back, but it was Death Billiards. The old woman is the wife of the man from Death Billiards. I really love that. I love that it comes full circle and that something like from the OVA gets applied to this story. And the whole thing with Chavit on the little board where you pick the games came back in this episode, right? So that's so fascinating. I kind of love that you had to have seen Death Billiards to get the full appreciation for her character, especially that she's the wife of the old man and she was an artist. I love that. I think that's so great. But yeah, she says, I feel like I've seen it somewhere before. And so they play Old Maid, right? Which I wonder if Old Maid was the trump card. I want to go back to the OP now and see the games that they were playing on there. Yeah. And see that we have, what is this? There's the different games that they play. And yeah, you see her, Mayu with the dance. You see Clavis amongst the dummies. So I wonder if he was like one of the dummies too. And you see Queen with the memories and the alcohol that she's juggling. And so the games that they're playing, where's those? All the different ones. There's the Dance Dance Revolution at the funeral. Oh my God, I'm just realizing that Nona's playing that at a funeral. Okay. Yeah, and Trump is like the old maid card, which kind of makes sense because they were talking about the Trump cards and that the Joker should be the Trump card and instead it's what makes you lose. So yeah, they play Old Maid and all the cards have different things on them that are related to the players themselves, right? And so she has the illustrations that she's drawn. And we see lots of different designs. We see the old man and she says the grandpa, right? And we see the beer and the snacks that he made in Death Billiards. We see all of that. I wanted to see what other drawings and illustrations we get on them. And she says that her name is Sachiko, which is the name of the man from Death Billiards. I love it. And she says she doesn't know her name. So yeah, so we have the alcoholic drinks. We have the butterfly garden, all of the ashtray. That was what it is too. We have all of that. And then as they play, they all pick up the cards. And then we have like the pucks, everything, like all the different aspects from all the different games that we've played so far in the series all get thrown out there, right? As they're playing in this circle. It's kind of cool to see Decim play the game with them because you can't just play an old maid with two people. I like that Decim kind of gets involved. What's interesting is like the seat that they're all sitting in looks like an eyeball. It looks like an eyeball that they're sitting in with the pupil in the center, right where the table of the cards are. Doesn't seem like that's unintentional because it's the eye, it's seeing what happens between them. Like, freaking crazy. And she talks about how fun the game is. And that's when Decim pulls the card that is for Ginti with the doll on it. And he has the conversation with Ginti. What is the point of judgments? And he's like, yes, why do we pass judgments? I like that Mayu's still here. Mayu is just hanging out. She's still here. Ginti has not been able to judge her either, which is like pot calling the kettle black, right? Because Ginti has not been able to judge Mayu, and Decim can't judge Chiyuki. And then I like he slams it down saying, what are you, an idiot? What are you thinking? Ginti is such like a passive-aggressive tsundere. He does not want to admit that he is going through the same crisis that Decim is, right? He does not want to admit he's having the same issues. And I like how Ginti's hair is like, it's like a big wave of fire, and then Decim's is like water where it's just droopy like that. Seeing them side by side, you can really see the contrast of their two characters. But they're like fire and water. They're like ice and water, right? Which, oh God, Chiyuki with the ice skates makes sense, right? But yeah, they're like fire and ice. Ginti and Decim are, but they're both arbiters who were created with, I believe, with human emotions imbued in them. And that's so funny because you have Decim who has the human emotions of kindness and compassion and understanding and wanting to respect. And then I feel like Ginti is the human emotions that we've seen played out in the games where he gets fiery and angry and mad and upset. Like, so you have them both embodying these sets of emotions. Both of them do. And it's like, what? But yeah, he's like, what are you, an idiot? And he says, there is no point. We are here to judge, and that's why we judge. Our purpose is our meaning, right? And Decim's like, well, that doesn't make sense. That doesn't sound like it's right. And that's it. And Decim's like, but is that a good enough reason? Should we just do something because that's supposedly why we're here? He's like, that doesn't seem to make sense to me. And he says, it's not good and it's not bad. All there is the outcome. I love he's like, be quiet, you're bothering me. And she's like, I can't anymore. Like, she's just grumbling in her sleep. And he says, you're acting like a human. I'm like, Ginti acts like a human. That's my thing. Ginti gets on to Decim for acting like a human and having these emotions. But I'm like, Ginti, you're super emotional. And I think you're acting like a human too. You just don't want to admit it. They forget that at some time they're going to die, right? So at the moment of death, they look for some meaning of their life. Which I'm like, Ginti, I feel, is not the person to talk about that because what does he know? He's an arbiter. He hasn't lived, supposedly. So he's like, oh, they just try to find meaning in their life and death. I'm like, well, and he basically has this nihilistic view that there is no meaning to life. And Decim's like, I don't feel that way. I don't know if I agree with that. But Ginti is trying to convince himself. It's like Ginti is trying to convince himself that there's no meaning behind anything, that there's no point to anything. And that's what he's trying to tell himself so that he can do the job of judging. He's like, if I just tell myself there's no point to it all, and this is just how humans act, then I can get past it and be able to judge them, whether that's the case or not. And it's like, come on, man. It's like, Ginti, do you really believe that? And Decim doesn't seem to really believe it. He's questioning everything, right? And that's when we start getting the memories back. The Joker is the ice skates. Which is so funny, right? Because that's the trigger for the memory. Meanwhile, Nona and Clavis go to Quinn to try to get the memories. And they have them all. I like the world building here where you have the memories all compressed into different files and they're all like filed away, right? Once they're sent to arbiters, they're just filed away. Very akin to human paperwork, right? But I like that she's like, I don't know. She's like, why would you want those memories? And Nona's like, well, if Decim's not going to use them, then I certainly am. And then the old lady, Sachiko, realizes that she's dead because the character on her card that she's supposedly drawn was one she was just thinking of, but hadn't actually drawn it yet. Which is kind of crazy, right? And he's like, congratulations. You win the game. And then she's like, well, that's how I figured out it wasn't reality. And she's like, I don't want to know how I died. She's like, he's like, I had fun. She's like, I had some hard times, but I'm really glad I came face to face with my illustrations. That's why our time has been like a dream. Because you let me tap into that part of my life, right? And then she's just sitting there, you know, saying like that her life had meaning. And she says, I've lived a good life. And Chiyuki, the way she looks over at her, and he's like, that. I like that Decim goes, that is wonderful. I like that Decim just like, he's so stone-faced as he says it, right? And then she's just looking over like, she's like, life. Like she wants to remember that it had a purpose, right? Shall we get back to it? And then Queen finally, I like that there's just bags and bags of pebbles that are memories, like stacked up in piles. She's like, people are dying every day. There's bags of memories. Why are you asking me to do this? I should be working right now. And Nona trades her for the bottle of liquor from the human world. Now, how she got that bottle of liquor from the human world? How's that work? How's that work? Who's the messenger sending stuff from the world of the living, right? And Nona thinks that there's a lot of memories in there, but Queen is like, no, that's actually pretty small in comparison. And then we get back to the game between the two of them and the story of Chavo and the little story about Jimmy who fell in love with Chavo, which seems like such a representation of Decim falling in love with Chiyuki, but he doesn't know how to express it. Only it's kind of reversed. He can't express his love to her because he's kind of deaf to human emotion, so he has to find another way to express it to her. And it's like, I'm like, I swear, if he keeps the dummy of her around as like a monument to her and like a shrine to her, I just have a feeling that this story is not going to have a happy ending, and I'm getting kind of bummed. Already! I want Decim to be safe. Why are you doing this show? But yeah. She talks about the nonverbal ways that you express your emotions through smiles and etc. It's really wondrous, huh? And that's when Chiyuki remembers her mom and bringing her the book, right? And her mom agreeing to read it to her because she liked it so much. And that's how she remembers her name. And then she starts to like cry and get sad because she's remembering her mom. And she's really sad about it. So we don't know what happened to the mom, but we know it's not good. Right? And Decim's like, I don't understand what it is. But she smiles when she cries, looks up and with tears in her eyes, almost like she's happy she remembered her mom, right? So regardless of whatever happened to her mom, it looks like she's happy that she was able to remember it the way that she looks at him. And Decim just looks like, I don't know what to do with this. He's like, is something the matter? And she says, no, it's nothing. Like these, they're happy tears. And Decim doesn't quite understand. He's like, well, they're tears. Does that mean you're sad? And in this case, no. It seems like she's happy that she remembers the mom. She's happy that she remembered her and says, it's my turn. And the ace of clubs is the dummy and the figure skates is the joker. And he grabbed the dummy and put the dummy of him and her down. Like, if that's not, like, you had the two children, like, laying down the cards for, and then you have the two dummies, right? So I'm like, it's just representation of the two of them, damn it. And then it shows her, like, as a dummy playing the piano, right? The dummy playing the piano. Oh man, I'm really nervous for the last two episodes already because I'm like, I don't know what this show is planning, but I don't know how I feel about it. And she says, I'm out. And that's when the woman asks if Miss Chiyuki is coming into the elevator. And she's like, oh, I'm just going to stay a little bit longer, you know, to the climax of this series. She's like, oh, take care. And then she says, you know what? In Old Maid, the last one with the Joker is the loser. And I think that's strange. And they're like, why? She's like, because by all rights, the Joker's supposed to be a trump card. So having it left at the end ought to be prudent, right? You should be the winner by having the Joker at the end, not the loser, is what she's saying. And yeah, so maybe somehow it's a sign that her remembering, because we've been treating this whole memory and remembering her past as a bad thing this entire series, but maybe her remembering and them talking about the memories in the next 2 episodes is going to be a good thing. Maybe she's saying that something, you know, what you think is going to be the bad thing that ends the game might be the thing that makes you win the game. Maybe, you know, there's some victory. She's saying there's victory in death. I don't know, Sachiko. But maybe what she's suggesting as being something for us, the audience, that seems like a bad thing that's going to happen will end up being a good thing. Maybe. I'm going to keep telling myself that until the end, right? And then she ends up getting reincarnated. And that's when Chiyuki asks, how did I die? And he guessed, we can't really do it this way, can we? So I'm like, are they going to play a game? He's like, I can't just tell you because I don't know your memories. He's like, that won't work. So we need to play a game to make you remember what's happening. Okay. All right. Meanwhile, and as soon as we talk about the game, or we mentioned subtly Oculus as they're playing his worldly billiards, looking creepy as sin. And Oculus and Clavis comes up to visit him. He's like, there's my boy. Yeah, I just feel like Oculus just has them all as dummies. He's made them all into arbiters. Like, what the fudge is happening? He's like, what is it that you need? And then he just smiles creepily. Nope. And there's flowers growing all around there. He's like, Nona simply isn't having anything to do with me. He's like, I don't know how to feel about it. Yeah, and as they're playing the galaxy billiards, there's all of like the growth and the flowers that are surrounding him. Oh my god. And then he's like, oh no, I can't. And that's when like the lotus goes from his head to his chin. And he says, I'm joking. Nope. Him just like reaching around, grabbing him with it. Nope. And probing his memories. Oh my god. And yeah, everything. An arbiter with human emotions. Oh my god. He's like, sorry about that. And he's like, and yeah, Clavis had no clue what happened. He's like, you can go now. And he's like, oh, okay, excuse me. Yeah, Clavis just doesn't have, he's just a dummy. Oh my god. Oh my god. That was so creepy. Nope, don't like Oculus at all. He says, how pointless. Like, what difference is it gonna make? I'm like, Oculus, secret bad guy. Nope, confirmed. He's our antagonist. Whatever you can use. But here's the thing. What are they gonna do about it? Like, he's the one controlling everything. So him and Castor are like ones in charge. So what can they do? What can Decim and any of them do? I don't understand. Are they just, maybe if they don't judge people, can they destroy like the fabric of reality? What even is? I don't know. At this point, I don't know what they're gonna do. I'm like, I don't know how to solve this problem. And that's when they go back and he says, I say people do not live just so that they can someday die. It's because they're alive that they someday die. Yeah, so there's these two differing opinions. Ginti believes that humans only exist to die. That's the whole thing. He's like, they don't realize they're alive until they're dead. And Decim is like, no, they are alive. He's like, it is because they are alive that they someday die. Like it's because you live life that someday it has to end. It's not the other way around. It's not that you just live to die. It's that because you are alive, then you die. He says there is a point to living. The same goes for judgment. Judgment must be performed hand in hand with both life and death. It is something that must be performed hand in hand with humans. For that reason, human emotions. And then he thinks, and then his eyes get wide, and that's when she starts to, like, part of her comes off. And he says, Miss Chiyuki, would you tell me everything? He's like, will you tell me your story so I can make a judgment? Can you remember your story now? And that way we can pass a judgment. But Nona's going to have her memories. So what? Oh my God. So they're going to have to play a game, right? Can they do that with one person? I don't know. They played Old Maid with just a dummy that was Sachiko, right? But oh my God. So yeah, I, at this point, have no clue what else we're going to do. Because, I mean, Chiyuki has to reveal her backstory. I'm assuming that's what next episode's going to be, is Chiyuki's backstory. Finally figuring out how she died, maybe, and what her life was like. Does she have any darkness in her heart? Or what's the deal? And then, how is Decim going to judge her? Is he going to judge her? Is Nona going to step in? Is Oculus going to step in? What's Ginti doing? Because, yeah, the thing about it is, we do have an in-credit scene. And the ED makes all the more sense now, right? The ED of all of these humans as just basically dummies and them slowly decaying and falling apart. But then once they die, if they don't get reincarnated or go to the void, the same thing happens. They just go back to becoming dummies again. It's just this big cycle, right? And even the arbiters are dummies too, so it's another big cycle, right? But the end of the episode was actually Ginti. And Ginti, where we get the end of here, where we had him, and he has the dolls there, and then there's a bunch of water, and him smiling, and it looks like the body of the one that was played by Miyano Mamoru. So, So the question is, what is Ginti doing? And what do we do with this? So that's the question. Decim is going to try to figure out how to judge Chiyuki by possibly playing a game with her and having her explain all of her memories to him. That's how he's going to judge her. But then how is Ginti going to judge Mayu? I feel like the next episode we're going to have side by side. There's going to be Decim trying to judge and figure out how to judge Chiyuki. And then we're going to have Ginti trying to judge Mayu. And did Ginti make Miyano Mamoru's character a Harada? Did he bring him back to life to tempt her? To, like, try to bring out some darkness in Mayu to judge her? What do we do with that? What do we do with that? So, y'all, I am definitely going to be reading the comments because we are going to have a live stream about this. And I want to read the comments from everybody's episodes and talk about them in the live stream, obviously. But I'm not going to lie, now that I've opened the floodgates and watched this episode ahead of time, I don't know if I'm going to be able to wait and not watch the other episodes. I don't know, right? So, but yeah. I'm very curious to know your thoughts down below in your comments. The idea of nonverbals and about how we judge people, is life worth living? Do we live to die, or are we alive? Is our sole purpose just to live and die, or are we alive and that's why we die? Like, just, all the themes and stuff getting brought up in this show, the creepiness of Oculus, just everything is just, oh my God. I'm really enjoying it, but I'm so trepidatious because we have 2 episodes left. Next episode is the penultimate episode, and you know we're probably going to find out stuff about Chiyuki. I'm glad we know her name now. I can call her Chiyuki and not the black-haired girl. But I'm like, I just want to know. So, I hope y'all have a wonderful week. Please stay safe. Take care. And yeah, I'll be back very soon with episode 11 of Death Parade. Bye.